we're in hard times and some of us are going to need a lawyer. And if you need a lawyer, don't just react to a TV commercial. Get a copy of the Lawyers Consumer Directory, which is available absolutely free of charge at any 7-Eleven store throughout Central Florida. The Lawyers Consumer Directory is going to give you real hardcore knowledge on how to hire a lawyer and a lot of information on issues like bankruptcy, foreclosure, and more. Get the Lawyers Consumer Directory. It's absolutely free of charge at any 7-Eleven throughout Central Florida.
Ahora puedes demostrar tu orgullo hispano mientras manejas en la carretera con la nueva tablilla o placa de auto hispana conmemorando los 500 años del descubrimiento de Florida por Juan Ponce de León.
Obtén tu tablilla hispana este año y harás la diferencia.
Nuestra comunidad se beneficiará con más programas y servicios.
Resalta nuestra cultura, nuestras raíces.
Hi, welcome to Hispanic Speak Out TV, brought to you every week on Bright House Cable, Channel 49. We've been on the air for 9 years, talking about issues that are pertinent to the Hispanic community and that affect the general community arising out of the Hispanic community. We're here again with my co-host Glenda Chauncey and also Jose Miranda of Radio Fame. How you doing, guys?
I'm doing great.
Good, good. Listen, I sent out an email blast last week, and I picked 4 topics that I got a lot of phone calls on because a lot of people didn't like it, but I figured that's why I did it. You know, okay. Obama, what is the Obama agenda? By the way, we only have about 3 minutes for each one of these topics, so, you know, we're short on time. So we're going to solve the world's problems in 3 minutes.
There we go.
Okay. Obama snubbed all of the UN people that came into town. He went on The View instead of meeting with the Prime Minister of Israel, who he snubbed him. And then the President of Iran got all this TV time. So there's a big, big hullabaloo about whether we're going to go to war in the Middle East. And it seems that it's going that way. Now, it seems like Obama is playing the card. He's snubbing Israel, but everybody thinks Israel has the A-bomb, that they're nuclear. And now Iran is getting closer and closer to becoming nuclear. But there's no red line. Everybody's calling, where's the red line? I mean, there's some commercial sanctions going on, but there's no red line to stop Iran. Do you think, and this is my question to both of you, do you think that Obama is stalling so that they both become nuclear and that's the final check system in the Middle East?
Wow, that would be a solution. Just nuke each other out. I didn't think he was that bright.
Who, Obama or the President of Israel?
Obama.
Hey, be nice.
He's being bad.
Wow.
Be nice.
But you know,
that is crazy.
Like, but you know what? That was the deterrent. Remember during the Cold War, the big deterrent was that everybody the Russians and the U.S. had enough nuclear weapons to wipe out the whole world, so nobody dared move forward. Right. You know what I mean? So do you think that's a strategy that they want them to have nuclear capability in order to neutralize the possibility of war?
Well, they better time it perfectly, because that's got to hit about the same time, right? I mean, if it were to happen.
Sure, it's a possibility.
Yeah.
The other thing is you can't put a red line, as you said it, because to allow yourself, if you cross this line, I'm gonna blow smoke at you. You cross the other line, I'm gonna throw a cigarette at you, kind of idea. It's not the appropriate thing to do. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the nuclear deterrent from each other would probably be the best bet to do.
Now let me ask you the next question. You know that the nuclear deterrent worked because the Russians are political and we are political. This is a different game. This is religion. And people die for religion.
They will die for it.
So do you think that fanatics, the extremist fanatics, who, you know, these are the guys who got into jet planes and killed themselves.
As long as
push
they
the button just to do it?
As long as they make the explosion small. Okay? And keep it within their borders.
It's cool.
That's cool. I've got no problems with it.
Okay.
No, but it is very extreme. I mean, at the end of the day, this whole reasoning behind religion.
And you also have this thing going on with the 9/11 thing, when the Obama administration said that it wasn't organized, and now it came out that it was an organized attack on the Libyan ambassador. And then all of a sudden you had 15 or 16 other uprisings all around the Middle East all at the same time.
Right.
I think that may be like a test run.
Yeah. Well,
of how do
you
I
put some thought into this.
No, it bothers me. Yeah, you know,
bothers
I'm
me.
worried about getting starting my car on Monday. Okay, next. Let's go to another subject. Okay, but that's interesting.
No, it
It's
is
really
very
interesting.
interesting.
I put in the email blast, is Obama anti-Christian? Okay? Now, the only reason why I did that is because a lot of deep Christian conservatives are really pissed off at Obama because he's using government money.
He just used the.
Yeah,
you
it's
did.
okay. It's not so bad.
That one's
It's
not too bad?
not
Okay.
bad. He's using, and I'm not wearing my collar. So he's using government money, okay, to fund anti-Christian doctrines such as abortion, such as gay rights. Now, do you think government money? I think, look, let bygones be bygones.
Listen, everybody takes government money. Even our previous guests take government money.
Yeah, but he was an elected official. He's expected to take government money.
There's nobody around here that doesn't take government money.
I understand that part, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about using government money to finance.
Why are you scared of the religious rights?
I'm not scared.
So
I'm bringing it up.
Give
I'm
them
bringing
a
it up.
bone. That's all they want is a bone. They want more money.
So you're saying they can
Everybody
be
wants
bought
more
off?
money.
You're saying the Christians can be bought off? Give them money too?
I'm saying
to blow up
spread
abortion clinics?
A mythology for their worshipers, their thoughts around the world, and the world is not ready to accept all that stuff that they want to pass on. So let them complain as much as they want. They've complained in every election. They've complained in every government factors, and guess what? They're still in the same place. God bless them. You know?
Okay. So how do you feel about it? You think they should use government money to do abortions?
First of all,
in other words, you're paying for somebody else's abortion someplace else, 5,000 miles away, or 3,000 miles away.
I don't. I mean, I think this is the problem with our country, where our noses are always in too much other people's business. Move out. Just get out of it. Why do we have to keep funding
my
it?
position is,
I don't
the
like
reality is, you want to go do what you do, go do what you do, as long as it doesn't hurt me.
That's right.
And as long as it doesn't break the law, okay? Now, for me to fund you, okay, to go to strip clubs, okay, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
For me to fund you to do things that, you want to go do with your money.
Yeah, that's
true. You know what I mean?
I agree.
I don't want you to do it with my money, and that has nothing to do with the willingness to help people in need.
Right.
That has to do with something that the government is funding abortions for people who need abortions, who may not even be in who are not in financial need.
Right.
I mean, it's part of the process now.
Right. No, I think it's wrong.
I'll tell you where it's going crazy. It's going crazy that the government funding now is going to hospitals. Look, Florida Hospital. Isn't Florida Hospital a Christian organization?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So now they're putting pressure on Florida Hospital.
And they should be independent. They should not take a dime of the government.
And I agree with you. Florida Hospital wants to be independent and vocalize. All these hospitals should not take government funding if they're going to take that policy. I agree. And they do have enough money. So they shouldn't take the government money.
Of course they do.
Now, if they want to give government money to you because you need some health care, and then you go to Florida Hospital, that's a different story.
Correct.
But not directly to the hospital.
Right.
I agree with that.
Right.
Okay, let's get off Obama because I don't want to make this Obama bashing night, okay? Let's talk a little bit about your friend and my friend Mitt, okay? Mitt Romney, all right?
Uh-oh, here we go.
The Mitt.
The Mitt. I'm gonna ask you, this is the other question I ran in the email blast. Will Mitt Romney, if he becomes president, give a death sentence to the poor and the sick?
Yep.
You agree?
He said it on 60 Minutes last night when asked,
okay,
will he abandon or how will he handle the care of 50 million people? He said not a problem. If you have a stroke or something like that, they'll collect you from your home, bring you to the nearest emergency room. Good luck. Good luck there.
Hey, listen, everybody.
The quickest place to bankruptcy is through the emergency room.
The emergency room. You're absolutely right, because there was a time when I was down and out, right? And I slashed.
You mean like now?
No, not like now. This was worse than now. And what happened was I was working on, my hand went through a glass door, and I slashed my wrist, and I had cut my tendons. Okay? Mm-hmm. I went to the emergency room. I wasn't denied. I got all the services. I also got a bill for $18,000, and this was 30 years ago. So that's like it's like it would be like $100,000 now.
Right.
Okay?
Easily.
And you want to know something? The hospital was Presbyterian in New York on 170th. They were relentless. They went to my employer. They were relentless to collect that money. Relentless.
Well, and that all needs to be reformed. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. It needs to be reformed.
The whole idea of some poor person, but that's the emergency room. You don't go into the emergency room if you have cancer.
Yeah. No.
You don't go to the emergency room if you need an operation for hernia. So, by eliminating the health care, Romney's position is, hey, everybody go out there, go do it, go do it.
Well, he said it's up to the individual's mandates of each state. And you could tell our governor will really help us out.
Yeah, Rick Scott, it'd do great.
Well, okay, so we've agreed on this one, right?
Yeah.
We're kind of agreed that if Romney becomes president, the poor are going to get they're going to get the raw end of the graveyard.
That's right.
It's been that way for a long time. Poor always die. I mean, I think there's a survey that poor people die up to 4 to 5 years sooner than wealthy people or people that have means to have health care. So, we're in agreement with that one. Okay, the last one, that changed in the last couple of weeks because I said, well, Romney is a militarist. Okay, he really is. I mean, his speech with his VP was in front of a battleship. When he announced his VP, remember that? The Virginia? He actually did it in front of a battleship. What kind of message was that? That message was going to all of the manufacturers of equipment that ferment these situations,
What if he just wanted to
military.
stand in front of a big ship? What do you mean?
Well, he should have gone to Mickey Mouse. He should have gone to Disneyland.
Maybe he just liked the background. You put a lot of thought into that.
Yeah. So we were thinking about Romney, being a militarist. Would he be the guy to attack Iran? But, that may happen before the election now. It may happen. We may land up with a Middle East war. And if those uprisings...
Or 2 empty lots.
Listen, I don't know what's worse, either one of these people getting elected. I mean, it could be the same thing.
As long as they don't block the Straits of Hormuz, we're okay. If they block the Straits of Hormuz, we better make that oil pipeline come from Alaska real quick. It's scheduled to take 8 years or something to build that pipeline.
I always have a concern when people send young people to their death, okay, and they do it either in a frivolous manner or I can top this by sending so many troops. I think before we shed our blood, you better make damn sure that this is the right move to do.
I don't think we should be there, period.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Well, we had the president of Iran was on the air last week.
Yeah, I heard that. How's he doing?
CNN. The guy he's shrewd, he's smart, he knows exactly what to say, how to manipulate a conversation. You know what I mean? But whether he comes off very smooth, but still behind the scenes.
He's a madman.
He's a madman. You know what I mean? He can push the button. That's what concerns me. If they do get the bomb, is it a checkoff, or maybe they'll just manufacture a bunch of suitcase bombs and send them out with couriers all over the world? That's what worries me. I'm not worried about the Israel.
You're talking about dirty bombs.
Yeah. He sends out 40 guys, and they go and get on planes and put one in Germany, put one in New York, put one in England, and let them blow up near the White House and stuff like that. And then, those areas are dead for 500 years. That's what really worries me. That's what worries me about the whole thing. Anyway, we had a good conversation. Time ran out, and so we will end our quick 3-minute jaunt. We'll see you next week. This is Danny Ramos on Hispanic Speak Out TV, where you will find political controversy caused by my two co-hosts, okay, Jose Miranda and Glenda Chauncey. We'll see you next week on Bright House 49. We're in hard times, and some of us are going to need a lawyer. And if you need a lawyer, don't just react to a TV commercial. Get a copy of the Lawyers Consumer Directory, which is available absolutely free of charge at any 7-Eleven store throughout Central Florida. The Lawyers Consumer Directory is going to give you real hardcore knowledge on how to hire a lawyer and a lot of information on issues like bankruptcy, foreclosure, and more. Get the Lawyers Consumer Directory. It's absolutely free of charge at any 7-Eleven throughout Central Florida.
Ahora puedes demostrar tu orgullo hispano mientras manejas en la carretera con la nueva tablilla o placa de auto hispana conmemorando los 500 años del descubrimiento de Florida por Juan Ponce de León.
Obtén tu tablilla hispana este año y harás la diferencia.
Solo 1,000 se necesitan para hacerla permanente.
Su donativo ayudará a estudiantes con becas.
Nuestra comunidad se beneficiará con más programas y servicios.
Resalta nuestra cultura, nuestras raíces.
Demostremos que la unión está la fuerza.
Obtén tu tablilla hispana en el Departamento de Vehículos de Motor más cercano o llama hoy al 321-277-0850.
Welcome back to Hispanic Speak Out. I'm Jose Miranda, brought to you, of course, by Bright House. Tonight, our guest speaker is Darren Soto. And good evening, Darren. How are you, man?
Great to see you, Jose. Thanks for having me, man.
Good, man. Well, let's jump right into it, shall we? Okay.
Sounds good to me.
All right. We've had the opportunity to speak to your opponent and on various issues. As a United States Senator, are you a senator for all the people or just for the senator for Floridians?
For Floridians, because it's state senate. But I believe that's one of the key questions in this race. I've been proud to represent a decent part of the district for about 5.5 years, and I got my start walking door to door and building up momentum through making connections with folks, and that's the same thing we're doing to this day.
Speaking about connections, you're working as a lonely Democrat in a predominantly Republican House. Needless to say, it's been a difficult uphill battle for you to introduce bills and get them passed and to work across the aisle. How is your new position different from your old position, and how do you plan to cross that aisle to get things done?
Well, first, I wouldn't say it would be needless to say that in the fact that I've passed some major pieces of legislation during my 5.5 years. I was able to pass the Luis Rivera Ortega bill, which helped reform and keep our streets safe against street racing. In addition, I was able to pass bills protecting families of fallen firefighters, as well as school bus safety. But part of my job is also to stop bad legislation, like the Arizona-style law that would have been discriminatory towards Hispanics, the Supreme Court split, as well as non-judicial foreclosure. And what I found is that you have to be able to do both. You have to be able to work across the aisle to pass bills, like I've been able to pass bills in the past, but at the same time you have to identify what is extreme legislation, sometimes by both parties, and stand up. So I would use my past record to show that I have been able to work across the aisle, and I'd use that experience in the Senate, where just about everybody there has served as a legislator or as an elected official before, and I think that'll be critical so that we have effective leadership there.
Seeing that you brought some things up about Latinos, Hispanics, and things like that, what's your feelings about the immigration issue? How should we handle it in Florida? Should we just put them all on buses and send them back in?
Heck no. First of all, there are state and federal issues on this. One, the wrong thing was to try to have our law enforcement be deputized immigration police. I strongly fought and helped defeat the Arizona-style law, which would have allowed police to stop you if they had reasonable suspicion that you were undocumented. And that was a big victory that happened in 2011. In addition, there's been other state issues about in-state tuition. One bill dealing with if your parents were undocumented, but you were a citizen, whether you'd be eligible for in-state tuition and for certain state grants like Bright Futures, and another dealing with if both you and your parents were undocumented, but you would have been DREAM Act eligible. And I supported and co-sponsored both those bills because I think that's one of the keys for our Hispanic community is education, for opportunities. That is the way for our culture to continue to progress forward here in Central Florida. And
the two bills that you mentioned, did they pass?
No, they didn't even come close to passing, unfortunately.
And why is that?
Because there is a sharp divide among non-Cuban Republicans in the House and the Senate not supporting that, and with them being in the majority, some of those bills we put forward because it's the right thing to do, but they're almost dead on arrival unless there's a major shift. And so you have to fight where you can for a lot of these issues, like where I was able to get the governor back in the day, Governor Chris DeVito, reductions in ESOL education. So there have been some issues where we've helped Hispanics in education, others where we've been in more of a defensive posture.
Tell me, we brought up the subject of education. What is it that we need to do here in Florida to boost up both the parent, the child, and the educational system so that we get a better quality student, or actually provide the tools for a student to do better?
Well, first we have to fund it. We saw over $700 million in cuts to universities and K through 12 over the past 2 years. That is god awful. And a couple of things that I would support and put forward to help fill that gap is, one, to reform the internet sales tax. Right now we have a self-reporting tax, but no one reports it. Where we could easily have the vendors do it. They're doing it in 20 to 30 other states. That would generate $150 to $200 million a year based upon various estimates. In addition, we need economic development reform. Right now, we're getting a third of the jobs promised to businesses that have been receiving $10, $15, $20 million. That alone can save another $30 to $50 million. And then one of the biggest farces is that we have such a conservative, fiscal conservative legislature. I have seen anywhere from $150 to $200 million worth of what we call member projects or turkeys, where a very powerful legislator brings some big project back to their district that doesn't have a statewide effect. I'd also like to see a moratorium on those projects over the next couple of years. If we enacted that, that would be $200 to $300 million to put back into education. And I think that would get us a long way, as well as paying our teachers at least the national average. The last thing I'd like to see is FCAT reform. One of the things we're seeing in high schools is we're moving to Common Core, which is a national standard. So we don't just have a Florida standard where it may be institutionally biased or culturally biased. Mm-hmm. In addition, we need to continue to go to that in middle school, and we need to decouple funding from FCAT school grades. It's one thing for us to tell parents, look, this is how they did on a standardized test. It's a whole other thing to penalize a school fiscally. It only sends some of these schools that have problems into a more of a vicious cycle by defunding them and further taking out that stable base that we need for a lot of these schools, particularly on the east side of Orlando and Kissimmee.
Now, when we're talking about the educational aspect and trying to raise funds appropriately for the schools and the teachers, et cetera, to put back the programs that we need for our children, what about raising taxes? How are you feeling about that, and who should pay and who shouldn't pay? I don't support raising any taxes. If you notice, all my plans that with either reforming existing taxes or with using our funds more efficiently. We're dealing with a really tough economy right now, and I don't think we're going to help ourselves anymore by doing it. I do believe, though, we are already seeing revenue starting to jump, and we'll have our first year of surplus after sitting in the legislature for the past 6 sessions, seeing deficit after deficit where we had to cut to meet our balanced budget. We can't run a deficit in the Florida legislature. We have to adjust and balance our budget each year, and that surplus can be anywhere between $1 to $1.3 billion. So I'd like to see some of that go back into the program. Another thing that I'd like to deal with to help fund education, on the east side of Orlando, some of the biggest problems are whether they have food in their stomach or clothes on their back. And I'd like to help bring more corporate partners in to really focus on dealing with food bins. My fiance works at Jackson Middle School and over on Cimarron, and we see that's one of the biggest issues is basic needs. So I'd like to bring in more corporate partners, particularly for the Title I schools that are most in need of food and of clothing, so that they can have the basic tools they need to be able to compete. I will point out to you that the surplus that you mentioned has been on the backs of people who already lost their jobs. So while on one hand we say it's a surplus, I would say to you that perhaps it's on the backs of people who are on the jobless lines at this point. How do you propose to get those people back to work? Well, I think you got to go back to the basics. First and foremost is investing long-term in education, because right now the giveaway deals that trying to bring in big businesses hasn't been working. 2, I believe we need to make healthcare more affordable. That's why I support the President's plan and would be a vote in the Senate to adopt state exchanges to provide over 2 million more Floridians with healthcare.
And then the third thing, I think it's a matter of quality of life. I was a major proponent of Sunrail to bring in mass transportation. I think we need to continue on that by adding east-west mass transit on the 408 and 528. And one of the biggest things I'd like to see for the district is to put in an international terminal at Orlando International Airport. Tourism is what we do, but we can't even bring in the biggest jets right now. They have to go to Miami because we don't have the capacity. And I believe that that would help boost tourism. And if we have a better education system, we have a better chance of building economics from within, bringing the next Bill Gates up from our community rather than trying to bribe them with economic incentives.
Sure. You mentioned people being underinsured, under health issues. How would you change that around? Because we have issues with that.
Right. As I said, I support the President's plan, the Affordable Care Act, and what that does is it sets up either the feds will do it if the state does not act. If not, it sets up, the state would set up exchanges where private insurers would come in to fill the needs. Part of the folks would be on an expanded Medicaid program, and the others through this exchange would be able to qualify for health insurance that would be subsidized through the government, as well as based upon their income, they'd be paying something into it. But at the end of the day, the estimates from many of the hospitals around here, I've been told, would add another 2 million. Now that doesn't get us all the way there. There's 4 million uninsured altogether in the state of Florida, but we'd get halfway there. The other half, a lot of them are migrant workers that we have trouble bringing into the system. But I would support any sort of new ideas to bring those folks in. But I think if people are healthy, they are less of a cost on the system. Do you know in Florida we spend over $1 billion, what's called the low income pool or the LIP fund. That's just to subsidize hospitals already to go into to deal with the emergency rooms. So that's something you don't hear about all the time, that we're already spending billions of dollars on our emergency rooms, and there's a better way with preventative care, with getting more insurers into the system to spread the risk around everybody. And I support the President's plan and would support adopting a state exchange in compliance with that plan in order to provide more health care and lower that cost for our households.
Tell the audience how we can reach you.
You could reach me at my law office if you're talking about a campaign matter at 407-843-2222, or at my rep office if it is a legislative matter at 407-249-4743, or at www.darrensoto.com.
Well, we're just about out of time for this segment. I want to thank you for taking the time out to join us at the Hispanic Speak Out. I'm Jose Miranda, and thank you for joining us tonight.
We're in hard times, and some of us are going to need a lawyer. And if you need a lawyer, don't just react to a TV commercial. Get a copy of the Lawyers Consumer Directory, which is available absolutely free of charge at any 7-Eleven store throughout Central Florida. The Lawyers Consumer Directory is going to give you real hardcore knowledge on how to hire a lawyer and a lot of information on issues like bankruptcy, foreclosure, and more. Get the Lawyers Consumer Directory. It's absolutely free of charge at any 7-Eleven throughout Central Florida.
Ahora puedes demostrar tu orgullo hispano mientras manejas en la carretera con la nueva tablilla o placa de auto hispana conmemorando los 500 años del descubrimiento de Florida por Juan Ponce de León.
Su donativo ayudará a estudiantes con becas.
Solo 1,000 se necesitan para hacerla permanente.
Resalta nuestra cultura, nuestras raíces.